Good morning. So why am I standing here as Vincent Bacote, PhD, who teaches theology, directs the Ethics Center, instead of Vincent Bacote, DVM, Doctor of Veterinary Medicine? It's in answering that question that there are a few things I'd like to share about embracing God's will. Like many kids, I grew up wanting to do a lot of things. I wanted to be the guy that drove the train. I wanted to be a professional tennis player. I wanted to be a rock star. But in 8th grade, my love for animals, my interest in science, and my interest in medical questions all seemed to coalesce. And I decided that I was going to be a veterinarian. And so I set out on the path to find out, what do I need to do to be a veterinarian? Well, I needed to go to some good undergraduate institution with a pre-veterinary curriculum, and I needed to go to some veterinary school. My dream choices were Cornell, Penn, or Texas A&M. So I went off to the Citadel for college, the Military College of South Carolina, of which I'm an unapologetic graduate. I always feel like I need to say that. And there I was, a biology major, going down the path towards being a veterinarian. Also, while I was at the Citadel, the entire time I was there, I was involved with a parachurch organization called the Navigators. The Navigators, like Campus Crusade or InterVarsity, their focus is on discipleship. Made a huge difference in my life. They had these things called summer training programs. After my sophomore year, I went to Memphis, Tennessee for one of these summer training programs. Which city will he mention next? That's what you're wondering. And it was while I was at that summer training program that I had something that I've taken to calling the Amy Grant experience. I didn't meet Amy Grant. I didn't even go to see Amy Grant. I've never seen Amy Grant. I did work once while I was there in Memphis while her show was at this place called Mud Island, but I didn't see her. We could only hear at a distance the music. But what happened was we had to do jobs as part of this program, work during the day, and I was walking to the bus stop, and this song was playing in my head called "Where Do You Hide Your Heart?" If you don't know the song, I understand. It was over 20 years ago. But the song prompted me to ask a very important question, which was, really, who was running my life? Because, like I said, I planned to be a veterinarian. I decided I wanted to be a veterinarian. And what I wanted God to do was take my nice plan and rubber stamp it. God, I've got a plan. Now it's up to you to make it happen. But it's my plan. Thanks to that song, I recognized something. I recognized that I trusted God for my eternal destiny, but I didn't really think about God directing the entirety of my life. That was a fundamental shift that took place in my life. Instead of taking my plans and saying, okay, God, I kind of like how I make plans. Here they are. You make it happen. Instead, I said, God, here am I. Here's my life. You take my life. What do you want to do with it? And my life hasn't been the same since. So I go back to the Citadel, still thinking that I'm going to be Vincent Bacote, DVM. That's the plan. But during my junior year, I had the strong sense that I needed to consider entering full-time ministry. Now, this wasn't any kind of slam dunk, and in fact, I have to admit that I was kind of resistant to the notion initially, and this is not a good reason. I freely admit it. I didn't want it to be true that I could go into full-time ministry, because then these people at my church when I was like 12 or 13 who said, "You're going to be a preacher one day," those people would be right. I didn't want those people to be right. So basically I was like, well, I'll consider it. By the time I graduated, I finished my degree in biology. By the time I graduated, there was a little possibility of being a veterinarian and a much larger possibility that I was on my way to seminary. I lived in Memphis, Tennessee. I lived in Memphis, Tennessee from 1987 to 1990. And while I was there, I was pretty much set towards going to seminary, set towards being a pastor. But here's the interesting thing that happened. This posture of saying, "Lord, here's my life, you take it, you direct me," it had a certain kind of hazard that went with it. The hazard was this. Because I so wanted to be at the center of God's will, I was susceptible to any time somebody passionately talked about some aspect of God's kingdom work. I said, "Is that what I need to be doing, God?" Now, this would happen a lot. Two ways that are illustrative of it. First, there was a guy named Randall Terry. Look him up sometime, interesting character. I heard him on a Christian radio program talking about something called Operation Rescue, which was a pro-life organization that used civil disobedience tactics to rescue unborn children, to stop the abortions. That was the idea. He was such a passionate and persuasive advocate of Operation Rescue that here I was at work, hearing this, I thought, wow, I got to go to where the next rescue is. There was only one problem. I had a job. And I couldn't just quit my job and leave my job and go do some civil disobedience. My boss probably wasn't going to understand. So I didn't go to the next rescue. And that kind of passed.